Let's be honest, roguelikes are pretty cool. It's really a type of genre you can attach to anything. FPS, platformer, bullet hell, survival. It doesn't just have to be a dungeon crawl, you know. It makes it kind of a blanket term. I know nowadays the indie retro roguelike is a bit of a red flag, an oversaturated market, a meme. But I also know that people are dumb. And maybe that just goes to show how popular this genre is. I mean, if you saw my game randomizers video, people are straight up turning older games into roguelikes. I love roguelikes. I have hundreds of hours into these different ones. But there's one that I've been playing that I have a lot less time in. Yet even with such limited time, I can say that this is my favorite roguelike. And in some ways, may even be the peak of the genre. Listen up, dude. I'm gonna tell you about Monolith. But Spacey, this isn't insert roguelike that isn't Monolith here. And yeah, man, you're right. Monolith was first released in June of 2017 by Team D13. In December of 2019, it got a massive content update in the form of DLC. I'm going to talk as if this was just one full game because honestly, you're looking kinda dumb if you just don't buy the DLC too. Just think of it as one full game. It's a top-down shooter, bullet hell roguelike. At the moment, you're Noel, a coffee-wielding ship dude that is the 12th visitor to this facility in hopes of finding the ultimate power. On the way, encountering all sorts of obstacles in order to obtain your goal. You know the drill, randomize floor layouts, explore room to room, beat the boss, go to the next floor, die's pretty big too. One thing I've really come to appreciate about Monolith is that it really does its own thing. Like, most roguelikes take inspiration from another recent roguelike, just how genres build up. But I feel like Monolith looks back to something more like Isaac, which is kind of what propelled this genre, honestly. And it leads to a very different kind of experience. Monolith has to be the most skill-based roguelike, but before I get to that point, let's lay down the work. Like most shmups, you have a fire button and a bomb button. Bombs wipe out all of the bullets, typically used in desperation when you're in a perilous situation and you must save yourself from taking damage. You'd rather use a bomb than lose your health. Although bombs have many different types, so they can have secondary uses as well. You also have a dash, but this isn't some get out of jail free card though. You have no iframes during a dash, and the dash doesn't have a set distance either. It's hard to explain, but you do have influence over it. It's not a dedicated dodge button, but it can be used to dodge. Using it to dodge is one of the most important things to learn in this game. This is a bullet hell after all, and bullets are everywhere, and it's hell. Luckily, you can tell your hitbox at all times. It's this green dot here on your character. Isn't it amazing when games have good visual design for stuff like that? Here's health. The 4 dashes on the side are HP parts. You get these from picking up health items when you're at full health or dedicated HP part items. If it reaches 4 increments, your max HP is increased. So now you must be thinking, what about the weapons? This is a roguelike, right? So there's probably some crappy weapons, but then there's some crazy epic rare legendary ones. Well, no. Weapons can be found in these chest rooms. Every floor has one. Weapons come in categories or classes. It's cool because these are like the shmup power-ups you're used to, machine gun, laser, rockets. Well, I mean they're fireballs, but you know how it is. though there's definitely some experimental stuff like the sword or the razors. So no, there aren't a billion different weapons, but all these weapons are equally good. Furthermore, there's keywords. These are things such as homing, triple shot, wall pierce, etc. They modify the weapons and honestly dramatically change it, and at points, you yourself get to choose your own keywords. For example, I could have a giant sword that shoots triple wave beams, or maybe a smaller sword that reflects projectiles and maybe has an AoE explosion. Maybe my gun can shoot through walls. Take a look at this razor weapon. Depending on the keywords, you can shoot them all at once, shoot them all in different formations, maybe machine gun them, and hey, maybe they're giant too and I can clip enemies through walls with them, and maybe they even block bullets while I'm standing still. So the weapons have many different variations, but you don't have all of these unlocked to begin with. Look at this multiplier. The more enemies you defeat, the higher it goes. Take damage, it's slump. This multiplies debris. This is the main currency of the game. You get it from basically doing anything. Use this at shops to buy items during your run or other scenarios. However, you also get debris after you run, which can be used in the hub area. Yeah, the chill zone. As you progress through the game, it changes. People will visit and you'll even be able to decorate it. Most importantly is Clinus. They're the shopkeeper and you use your debris that you get from your runs here to buy stuff for future runs. You can also talk to them for some advice and lore. This is where Monolith really begins to differentiate itself from all of the other roguelikes. These are the unlockables, right? The shop expands as you complete stuff in the game, but basically, you can buy whatever you want here. You buy things like weapons or keywords, and they will appear in the random pool for your next run. But, do you see these check marks? One thing that sucks about roguelikes is that you always just unlock the trashiest items. Like, dang man, why is Isaac funner starting out than by 100%, where you're straight up unlocking items that make the game worse? But first of all of these weapons are balanced. It's preference. They're all good. You're not buying items to make the game easier, you're buying mechanics to make the game more interesting and fun. And guess what? If you don't like what you bought, don't like this kind of weapons, don't like these keywords, you can disable it. You can play the game how you want to in order to give yourself the best chance to succeed. Like maybe this run you do want to experiment with that weird drill weapon I don't like. I didn't think I'd be hyped for the spear, but give me the right keywords and I'm going in, man. Speaking of runs, let's talk about how it works. Every floor has a boss room, however the boss is locked out by mini bosses. Yeah, you can't just rush to the boss, you need to also locate the mini bosses on the floor too. Defeat the mini bosses, you can fight the boss. You have 3 important stats to look at. We talked about max HP, but there's also damage percentage and max ammo. Yeah, you don't upgrade your weapons per se to be stronger, you upgrade yourself. You can have your starting weapon and still do fine if your damage is high. And max ammo is something that affects all weapons, because you definitely aren't going to stick to a single weapon for your run. You can only hold one weapon, picking up another one overrides the previous one, there's no weapon switching. And picking up a new weapon will salvage the old one for debris. And once you run out of ammo, your gun breaks, it's gone, and you're back to the default weapon. It took hours for me to understand that it doesn't matter how strong your attack stat is, because if you don't focus on max ammo, you likely won't even make it to the boss with your weapon. These stats can be increased from pickups. Room layouts are randomized depending on what floor you're on, and all of them provide a pretty fun challenge. I like the rooms here. There are a lot of enemies in this game, and they all function differently and have their own quirks. There are a ton of different mini bosses and bosses as well, the variety is insane. You'll find these pods on every floor too. They'll give you a choice of a permanent upgrade for a run. These range from being invincible to some room hazards, making your default weapon stronger, a cool revive if you run out of HP, higher room drop rates, etc. But they only let you choose from a random selection of 3. Why would they do that? Well, this is the main thing that makes Monolith amazing. Decision making. You aren't at the whim of luck in Monolith. You're skilled and decisions lead to where you are. For example, when you beat a mini boss, you'll get to choose between a partial ammo refill or recovering 1 HP. What would you choose? Well, you took damage during the fight? Well, I guess you have to go for health. But it's sure gonna suck when your weapon breaks before you reach the real boss, huh? Or hey, you didn't take damage on the mini boss? Well, sweet, refill your dope weapon and keep cruising. What? You plan on replacing your weapon and you want to take the heal even at full HP? Well, cool, because you just built towards a max HP upgrade. This is even crazier after you beat a boss, because now you have to choose between recovering 2 health or getting a 5% damage increase upgrade that lasts for the entire run. But without 2 HP, how long would you even last? The Binding of Isaac rewarded you for beating a boss with no damage with the Devil Room, but here your reward for not taking damage is the damage upgrade, right? Well, no, because even if you took damage, you can still get the upgrade. It's your decision. Yeah, I'm hurting, but I personally think that increasing my damage will help me in the long run, so no, I'm not going to take the health, even if I may die next floor for it. Remember bombs? You can use them to escape bad situations by destroying bullets, right? Well, yeah, but you can also use them for secret rooms. And these secret rooms can potentially hold run-changing events and modifiers that you can't get anywhere else and that you don't want to miss. Bombs recover by clearing 3 rooms. Without upgrades, you can only recover a max of 2, but you can buy and find more. So take this scenario, you haven't found the secret room yet. You only have 1 bomb. Finding the secret room is actually pretty simple if you know the rules. But you haven't fought the boss yet, and you cleared the whole floor. If you use this bomb to potentially find the secret room, you won't have a bomb for the boss that may potentially kill you. It's your choice, man. Even better, there are a ton of visible hidden rooms on the map. You need to open them with a bomb, and they could potentially hold some incredible upgrades, but also may have nothing but enemies. Should you use the bombs on these, or save it for a boss or a hard room? Dang, I need money for an item, but I don't have enough. And the floor's cleared, I can't get any more money. But I can salvage my weapon from the map screen to get money. But then I'll be a lot weaker, I won't have a weapon for the next floor. Is it worth it for this item? None of these decisions would have any weight if this wasn't one of the hardest roguelikes ever made. This game is difficult. I've only technically beaten this game twice as of recording this video. And guess what, buddy? Beating the game isn't even the halfway mark, it gets harder than that. This game is so difficult that you can buy an item from the shop to practice the bosses from the hub, learn their patterns. Yes, most roguelikes, you need to buy items to make the game easier, and that's what this is. But it doesn't make the game easier by giving you some overpowered weapon or something. No, it makes the game easier because it's telling you to practice for the next run. It makes you better. That is cool. Another thing that makes this game such a joy to play is how fast paced it is. There was actually like no downtime. Gungeon kinda did this too, but basically all of these items and bubbles, they disappear when you leave the room. There's no going back, unless if they have a lock on them, but that's rare. So you never have to backtrack to get health. You take what you get and you have to make your decisions immediately. Also, when you do travel, you can use the map to travel to any room you've been to. Nice, fast, steezy. Another cool thing about this game is progression. It's not as simple as you can beat the whole game on your first playthrough. It's actually structured much differently. Also, yeah, most of my early footage for this game was me streaming it. I'll put the unlisted playlist of all I did in the description. It had some funny moments for sure. Bomb! Oh. Just a halfway part? I need the bomb! Bomb! Anyways, I'm gonna spoil a bit of a super early game here, so watch out because I'm coming. Just starting out, you find yourself in this quest to find these 4 sigils or seals or whatever in order to open up the first final level. Yeah, I know. And doing so lets you fight these bosses you never actually get to fight again, and that's pretty cool. It also works as an introduction. You're technically playing the same floors over and over, but each time there's a new objective. Hell, sometimes your run will get completely detoured because the boss drops their Game Boy and you wombo warp into there. It took many hours, but I finally beat the final boss and finished the game. This is what I came for, the W. It's weird. Okay. There you go. And there you have it. That's how they beat me up. That's how they say you're gonna be screaming the next day. Oh. Little did Stream Me know, I just passed the tutorial part of the game. Not only did I unlock hard mode and a ton of other really cool things, I also unlocked a new character. Meet D13. And while Noel was about the coffee life, D13 is a straight up juicer. Look at them with the juicy, man. I actually like how the pause screen changes depending on your character or where you are in the game. Even the music changes, it's cool, really puts the mood down. This game has a lot of cool details like that. Like, if you press the skip button on the first frame when moving on to the next floor, you'll get a perfect notification for the frame perfect skip. That's cool. I also like how the HUD changes colors depending on your health. It feels good to raise it back to green. Ooh, and the music getting shifted when you're underwater. Oh, what? You want to know the difference between D13 and Null? I already said, the Jews. Come on, man, pay attention. Well, actually, it kind of changes the endgame route. D13, the 13th visitor, which is weird because they're actually the tutorial boss, and I mean it looks like they made it in before Null, but you go, pal. Regardless, you did unlock hard mode, so the game is much different anyways. Because this is actually a good game, hard mode gives all of the bosses new attacks. Like, when you're doing practices against the bosses, you can choose whether or not you want to fight the easy or the hard version of the boss because they're completely different. Enemies in hard mode will also have sigils around them. Killing the enemy with a sigil will cause it to move on to another enemy. These have like champion-like effects, like giving the enemy abilities of dragging you towards them, or maybe they shoot more projectiles. You unlock some other cool stuff like lethality, which may honestly be the real hard mode. I don't know, it's just a really cool moment. You spend hours and hours to finally beat this game, and then you're like, oh, there's like 5 other unlockable characters in a hard mode. Wait, this game gets harder? Hard mode is hell. As of recording, I've only ever beat it twice. The final boss at the end of this route may just be the coolest final boss of all goddamn time. For story reasons, and the fight itself. It's so cool. God, the music too. I'm not spoiling this fight, but it's awesome. And the ending actually made me really sad. That's all I'll say. Before I talk about the plot, I'll talk about the presentation. I always forget to do this because I honestly don't care what a game looks like. With that in mind, I love how this game looks like, man. The whole aesthetic in general. It's like I'm playing some Lost PC Engine or SNES game. The palette is so interesting, it's kind of hard to describe, but a lot of orange, red, blue, and then they make your hitbox a green dot. Good visual design, man, it sticks out. The music too. This isn't some basic chiptune music or anything. I mean, it is chiptune, but it actually fits the style so well. It's hard to explain, like I can't explain this music. It feels like a game released back at the time it was trying to replicate. Not its own thing like most chiptune, it's kind of music I've been trying to find for a while. It's not something that's made often, I feel. It's awesome, and that's what I'm trying to say. God, it's awesome. This game is so much more than you would think. I've only talked about like less than the first fifth of the game. I didn't even tell you that there was this cool section of weapons called antique weapons. Like I just got a sword that slashes from anywhere, or a giant sword that shoots out these homing sigil lasers. Bro, this sword has a rod that shoots lasers, and this is just the sword weapon. Hell, I haven't even talked about the story. Maybe for a good reason. I think it's really cool, but it's definitely not told outright. But there is something there, and it's a pretty cool world regardless. Oh yeah, this dude? Love this guy. Anyways, I unlocked hard mode, right? It took me far longer to beat D13 hard mode than Null normal. But I did, with 1 HP at that. That's just how good the final boss is. I even got the Overlord. Wowie, they're so cool. Characters in this game basically play the game completely differently. This dude is the sword guy. They only use swords, and compared to the other unlockable characters, that's actually pretty tame. It's not like the roguelikes where the different characters are basically just different loadouts. I couldn't stand swords, but after playing this guy, I came to appreciate them. Like, I found myself using bombs just to close in on the enemies. That's stuff you don't do normally. So here I am with Overlord, like hours later. Like, hey, did you guys know I started streaming this game like last summer, last year? because I couldn't make a video on this game because I couldn't beat it. Anyways, hours later, I won again with Overlord, 1 HP again because the final boss is crack. I was supposed to unlock a new character, but oopsie, turns out I was supposed to play and beat the game on normal and not hard. It might be a bug. Well yeah, trust me, I know there is far, far more to this game, but god do you know how long it took me just to get to this point. I got my money's worth already, and I'm gonna keep playing too. So I did draw the line here for the sake of the review, because god I've been studying the blade for like 7 hours at this point, and just looking at swords scares me now. But if it goes to show anything, it's that this is a heavily skill-based roguelike. If you never liked roguelikes because it was too luck heavy, then this is your game. It's all skill, and it's such an interesting design too. The balance between max ammo, max health, and max damage stats. You will never have them all very high unless if you are really good. They all work in tandem. If you don't take damage, you don't need to pick up health or buy health items. You can upgrade your damage, but then your weapons will break faster because you didn't upgrade your max ammo. But if you only take max ammo, then enemies will take longer to defeat because you're weaker and they'll cost more ammo. It's interesting stuff, man. It's that kind of perfect game design you don't see in most games. Hell, I didn't even talk about the cartridges and the stuff that they do. And man, even after beating hard mode, I was still finding new stuff. The sense of discovery here is incredible. Every time you think you're at the end, the next run, you see something completely new, like hey, was this always here? The content here is insane. And if that wasn't enough, another big update is coming out, man. It seems to have been in the works for a bit. I have no clue when it's coming out, but get psyched. This game is definitely worth the price of like, what, 13 bucks? But I've gone on sale for a lot less. Either way, play this game. I was originally going to call this video the perfect roguelike, but I decided not to. Monolith is my favorite roguelike, and for me to come to that conclusion with like half the time I've had in other roguelikes, I think that's notable. But to call it a perfect roguelike, I think that's subjective to what it means to be a good roguelike. So no, Monolith isn't a perfect roguelike. Monolith is a perfect video game.